This is 1017 CHLY.
Welcome to Wellness Wednesday and another episode of the Chronic Wellness Radio Show. I'm your host, Sandra Sova, and I am feeling fantastic this week, and I hope you are too. You know, it is my favorite time of year. It is a little cloudy and gray out there, but the sun is peeking out, and we are into spring. And I absolutely love that because with spring and with warmer weather, it has people going outside more and moving our bodies and enjoying all the beautiful places that we have here in and around our beautiful island. You know, whenever I go out for a walk on the beach or in some walking trails, which I haven't done yet this season, but I'm dying to do that, I always take my cane with me. And, you know, it's anytime the ground is not, you know, completely flat like a sidewalk surface or something like that, I use my cane for stability and to increase my mobility. And, you know, I used to have a kind of a funny sheepishness about it. I don't know if I was feeling embarrassed for using a mobility aid, or maybe I was thinking, you know, oh gosh, I shouldn't have to do that. But you know what? Now I think it is the absolute greatest thing. Because when I use my cane, I am able to have more fun. I'm able to move around. I'm able to do more of what I want to do, and I can do it safely. So that is a super, super win. So if you are someone who is, maybe hesitating to go out and about and explore because you're not so steady on your feet, go and get yourself a nice funky cane and go out and have some fun. So that is my wellness tip for you today. On today's program, we are going to be taking a look into an area of plant medicine that has been in the forefront lately and has also had its share of stigma surrounding it. We're going to be talking about medical cannabis. Now, we're going to be discussing medical cannabis from a user's perspective and how that may differ to what comes to mind when you hear the term cannabis, and for use on the recreational side of things. So we're hoping to, you know, have a bit of a discussion around that today. Pardon me. My first guest is well known to us here at CHLY, and it is the knowledgeable and talented Pam Edgar. Among many other things, Pam is involved in sharing, educating, and advocating around cannabis to support her own health. And Pam is also frequently called upon to be a speaker on the topic, and recently was a presenter at the Medical Cannabis Conference that was held here in Nanaimo just a few weeks ago. So welcome to the show, Pam. Thanks for joining me here today on Chronic Wellness.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. I appreciate the invitation, Sandra.
Excellent. Well, you know, Pam and I, we met just over a year ago. And that was when I had the opportunity to be a participant in one of the chronic conditions self-management workshops that you put on, which are fantastic, by the way, if anyone's ever thinking that. And, you know, right off the bat, and I've been to a few of these types of things before, but seeing you as a facilitator and a presenter, right off the bat, I was like, this woman, she has a story. There's some authenticity. There is a road of experience that I know she has walked, and that just came across so strongly. You weren't just teaching off textbook material. You've lived a bit of the journey yourself.
Yes. I fully believe don't walk the walk or talk the talk if you haven't done it yourself first.
Exactly.
So when the workshops came my way, I was overwhelmed at the opportunity and the privilege to be able to go into my community and help people learn some of the things that I had already learned. Somebody put it in a book. All I had to do was read it. Yeah. Outstanding. On the cannabis front, when I took my training back in 2004 to become a facilitator, one of the questions or comments during that training on the first day was about cannabis. Me being me, couldn't be quiet, so I spoke up and said, I've been using cannabis then for about 15 years, 10 or more years already. as a therapy to treat my modality, what I'm living with. One of the things I live with is multiple sclerosis. People understand that real easy.
Yep.
They understand MS, but usually when they think or hear MS, they think of a person in a wheelchair. I'm not. I've had 3 exacerbations that have shut me down for years. So the recovery has been long, has always involved cannabis, and the 3 exacerbations that I had were when I did not have it.
Right.
So put that correlation together pretty quick. When I said to our senior coordinator for the workshop that I use cannabis on a regular basis, and if that's going to be a problem being a facilitator to your workshops, I need to know now, because I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time.
Exactly.
What came back was in the form of a letter. Before I did the talk at the cannabis conference, I asked our coordinator for the workshops, what was your impression when I spoke up back then? And he writes, immediately upon meeting Pam, I was impressed with her enthusiasm despite her chronic conditions, as well as her passion for wanting to help others live a healthier life despite their own chronic conditions. During the 4 days, it became obvious that along with her enthusiasm and passion, Pam was extremely intelligent, and her intuitive grasp of the process involved both the program and what it took to be able to facilitate these 6-week workshops. Was extremely impressive to me, having conducted many of these leader trainings. During the workshop, many very private and emotional topics were discussed, one of which was the use of medical cannabis. To be totally honest, I was shocked. Never before in these numerous trainings with hundreds of potential volunteer leaders had anyone ever brought up this topic, and there was a number of gasps among the group. Having said that, one of our facilitator principles is to be non-judgmental. But as I scanned the room, I could tell judgments were being made, although they hadn't responded out loud, but you could tell on their faces. Remembering, this is 2004, some 14 years prior to the legalization of cannabis, and while many people with chronic conditions were utilizing it, no one was admitting it. So the courage that Pam had to not only share with this group of predominantly strangers, as well as myself, who would be the decision maker on whether Pam would become a successful candidate, was outstanding. I had no idea what medical marijuana was about. Was it legal? How do you get it? So many questions. Pam very calmly answered the questions that were asked, and in the process changed my idea of individuals using this form of therapy. Since that time, Pam has facilitated dozens of 6-week workshops, represented numerous health fairs, and given many talks to service groups, health professionals about our programs. Always, Pam displays intelligence, courage, passion, humor, and in my opinion has changed the minds of many closed-minded individuals about the benefits of using marijuana medicinally to combat some of the effects of very debilitating conditions. I feel very blessed, both personally and professionally, to know Pam, to work with Pam, in hopes that self-management programs, along with our shared personal experiences, have in some way contributed to the hundreds of people living with chronic conditions. When Mark sent me that letter, I had no idea the impact of what I said that day had on him. And since then, I have become one of the people, when there are questions about cannabis or using marijuana medically through the University of Victoria Institute on Aging and Lifelong Health, they come to me or a couple of others who've become very brave about talking about it. It does become an issue, and there is a huge stigma. And no, I am not that person smoking pot, living in my mother's basement, eating potato chips and drinking Coke. I don't care who you are. When you hear that someone is using pot, smoking dope, that's the impression. That's the cartoon that pops into people's heads.
Yep.
The first time I was on this radio station on Elephant Talk, I believe was the name of the show, years ago, when I first got my first series of forms to apply to Health Canada. I have a handful of them right now that I'm going to show Sandra. This is the abridged version. There's only 11 pages.
And
when I got it, it was 28.
And are those forms really easy to navigate and fill out, Pam?
No, not at all. No, not even a little bit.
No.
I sit with at least 2 people, and we read each section out loud to verify, do we know what they're asking? Because sometimes it's very cloudy. When I first got my series of forms back in 2001, I took them to my healthcare providers and said, don't sign these, because it takes the responsibility off the patient and puts it on the shoulders of the physician.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm the one who is choosing to use cannabis. It's not his response or her. It's my responsibility. I liken it to somebody who's using insulin to treat diabetes. You got to know where your blood sugar is. You got to know, do I need to eat? Do I need to rest? Am I hydrated? Or do I need insulin or food? What do I need? So you are self-medicating. You know, you've got a series of regulations to follow or guidelines to follow to know how to navigate through your health. That component is missing with marijuana because so many people say there's no research. Yeah, there is. It's out there.
There is tons of research. It's out there, and because it's not the one that's been in the standard 3-ring binder or whatever it is that everyone's going to, they're putting the blinders on and saying the research isn't out there, but it is.
So they're saying it's all anecdotal. Okay, so yes, anecdotal information that goes from the bottom up to change policies and laws is exactly what's happened with medical marijuana. And a lot of those letters, those comments came through the MS clinic because people with MS do really well on cannabis. And they're finding other autoimmune diseases also do really well on cannabis. But there are some diseases and conditions that do not. And we need to know what the differences are. I worked in a dispensary for over a year. I didn't want somebody walking into the dispensary that heard something from somebody that said something somewhere that said something that sounded like it would work for them. No, that's not research. That's gossip.
and that's where so much of the stigma comes from, is because everyone kind of thinks that it's just one catch-all thing, like, oh, you're going to get some cannabis or some marijuana, just as if, oh, we were going to get some milk. Like, it's just like it's all the same, and it's not. It's like not. You said, it's different conditions are or may not respond to it, and then there's all the different variances of what is out there.
When I do a talk, I'll ask the group of people that I'm talking to who knows the difference between sativa and indica, two main strains of cannabis. Sativa and indica. The plants look different, they grow different, and the effects of the plant are different. Both sativa and indica address nausea and spasms, but sativa is a stimulant. Indica is the one they say in the couch. I call it the innocent because you're less likely to get into a lot of trouble with indica than sativa. Sativa can get you charged, can get you going, and is great for some people who need that lift and that energy to get past the pain. However, when you're using sativa in that method, are you doing more than you should and paying for it the next day or two? So again, you're self-medicating, you're titrating. So you do that little bit, whether it's a vaporizer or you're smoking a joint or even an edible, and understanding an edible is going to process differently in the human body than smoking or vaporizing. It goes through your lungs, gets in your bloodstream that way. When you eat it, it has to be metabolized through the liver, and it's going to take, depending on your metabolism, how much food is in your stomach, how hard your body is working right now, anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour before the effect takes. And the effect for some people is very subtle. They might not notice that their shoulders are actually a little bit more relaxed or breathing a little bit better. Maybe that ow isn't as loud, but it's still there. Cannabis never takes my pain completely away. Nothing does unless you knock me out. I prefer to be awake. But it allows me to be okay with the pain. So years ago when I started using it, and I could sit and just be, and I could listen to the pain, feel the pain without it overwhelming me. I wasn't back in the trauma. I wasn't back in the crisis. I was present day. Okay, this hurts. It kind of should, considering when you take into considering the damage done. So that made it okay. First step, it should hurt. Okay, so what can I do about this? What feels good? How can I maneuver through the pain? Then add MS to that. Those pains I'm saying are from a motorcycle accident from 1975. Severe. Unable to treat nerve pain, the type of bone and soft tissue pain that I have. So they would say, when you go into crisis, we need to knock you out.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm always quite passionate about is for myself and in the community that I do a lot of work in, it is dealing with people that have either chronic pain or a chronic condition. And like you said, it's not, for many, the pain does never completely ever go away. And that's not really the goal. It's like you say, to be able to to manage it and get to a level where it's more comfortable. But the thing that gets me is that the alternatives and the things that the doctors will be giving, such as the prescription medications and stuff like that, those are, they're designed in a different way to knock out and to mask the pain. And very, very important, chronic conditions are not meant to be managed with prescription medication. Those are for short-term use after surgery, not for someone that has a lifelong
chronic
condition.
No, exactly. And what happens when we take the pharmaceuticals is they shut down our hormone system that actually feeds our bodies with the hormones that it needs to reduce the inflammation, to take that panic of feeling of pain, to take some of actually the pain away, which is inflammation. So when we take the pharmaceuticals, it shuts down our body's natural ability to cope. That's what CBD does. It feeds our endocannabinoid system, so it allows our body to heal. People say, well, I take CBD, but I'm still in pain. Yeah, because there's a difference between recovery pain and healing from the damage.
Yeah.
So you're not going to feel the effects of CBD short term. That's long term, because your body is going to heal to where it can from the damage caused by illness or injury. So yes, for a lot of people, no, there is no sensation when you take CBD, other than a little bit more relaxed, not getting as much agitated, and likely sleeping better, because your body is now getting what it needs. Your body is understanding now, I'm not in crisis. I'm being fed what I need to do my job, as opposed to the pharmaceuticals that shut down that job of that hormone system. And as Sandra said, I have an infection. I'm not going to smoke more pot. And I hate using the word pot, but in this, I'm going to do it. Because no, I'm not going to smoke more pot. I'm going to go to the doctor and get an antibiotic. Right?
Yep.
I'm not that idiot. When I came on the show, Elephant Talk, years ago, and it was an open conversation, someone phoned and said, are you sure you smoke marijuana? Because you seem pretty smart.
Gee, thanks.
Now let's talk about your choice of the word seem. Because if I seem smart, then you're not listening very clearly. So pot has not made me stupid. It has not made me lazy. It has not made me fat. It has not.
Yeah.
No. So, and I get that it's my series of injuries and illnesses that I titrate with my series of medicinal marijuana products. What I do for me isn't going to work for you or that person over there. You got to know your body. You got to know what you're trying to deal with and what are the symptoms you're trying to address. Is cannabis the right product for you to use is the first question, because sometimes it's not.
Correct.
Right? So we want to know what it is you're trying to achieve. So the first thing we're asking is for you to pay attention to your body. So many people in the first place don't do that, as you heard doing the workshops.
Yep.
We ask you to listen to your body. How are you communicating about what you're feeling? Do you know what you're feeling in the first place in order to communicate about it? How do you describe your pain? Well, it's there. What does a doctor do with that? So tell your physician what you're feeling, how you're feeling, what intensity it is, how frequent is it, what's causing it. Do you know? We go to doctors and go, fix me. No.
Yeah.
We need doctors are practicing medicine. Patients need to practice being patients to give our doctors the best information possible.
And I think there's this huge responsibility to be take an active role as being a patient. So many people go in and feel that they're, sort of at the mercy at whatever the doctors say. I'm always telling people to be empowered, and that's that you are the one that's in charge of that doctor's visit, and to be vocal. And I think with things like using cannabis, I think people now are, they're becoming a little bit more vocal and less afraid and talking to the medical professionals in their life. And sometimes the response will be open and sometimes it won't be. But in a way, it's sort of a reverse education process, because we're exposing to the real...
It's anecdotal. It's coming from the patient.
Yeah.
Now, the physicians, and I have so much empathy for physicians and RCMP officers right now, because their hands are bound.
Yep.
There has been no official documentation from Health Canada specifically to physicians and the College of Surgeons. There has been no release of information to physicians and surgeons through the College of Physicians and there is no opinion yet. There is no opinion yet. There is no opinion yet. This program has been in operation, the medicinal access for cannabis for marijuana for medicinal uses, since 2001.
Mm-hmm.
There's no information yet.
Right.
There's no 2001. I'm filling this form out for the 19th time.
Yeah.
So in order for me to still have access to what I need, I still need to apply to Health Canada. What Health Canada has done is legalize recreational use, not medicinal use.
Mm-hmm.
So the water is still very muddy. The information is very unclear. Edibles are,
Yeah.
because they can't regulate a product that they can't regulate every component that goes into it. And cannabis is a plant, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, are you a gardener?
I'm not a gardener per se, but I have a lot of knowledge with quality of product from plant based on my essential oil work.
Okay.
And so all the different constituents from the different plants and the different growing cycles and the climate, very different.
You get it.
Living
no
thing.
matter what it is you're growing, it has its own, it's an entity. It's a living being. And the environment that plant is in is going to affect that plant.
Yeah.
So I grow flowers and a few vegetables and what have you in my back patio. But if I don't have that planter right where it needs to be to get that flower to bloom when it should bloom, or when I want it to bloom, when you understand how a plant will work, then it's not. If it doesn't have the right amount of light, the right amount of soil, the right temperature, the right air flowing around it even.
Yeah.
If the nights get too cold, too long, too fast, it will affect the plant.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't take a plant that is that malleable to put it in an edible product that's going to be okayed through VHA or FDA or. So do you see?
And that's why they like to have access to all those nice little synthetic, little predictable ingredients. And yeah, exactly.
So here's the thing. So I've been making my own butter for a long time. And I'm asked, how do you know how strong the butter's in? I test it. A small bit of butter on a cracker or a piece of bread. I know what the effect's going to be in my body because I know my body and I know the product and I know the process and I know what to expect, right? But we're asking people to be so very aware of ourselves, what is the reaction in our body, and the physical ingesting it isn't always the correct method of delivery for that body, depending on what those symptoms are.
Mm-hmm. You know, I wanted to sort of utilize you here because you have so much knowledge. And I went to a couple of my online chronic pain and chronic wellness groups and said, hey, this is the show I'm doing. Do you have any questions that I might want to pose for Pam? So we may have touched on something, but before they get away from them, I want to see if what you have to say on these things. The first one, and we were just sort of getting there, the effectiveness of edibles, such as gummies, as opposed to other forms. And these are all questions regarding to pain.
Okay, so edible, first of all, what's on your diet? If you're a diabetic, should you be having a gummy? If you have Crohn's disease, should you be having a brownie? So what's the edible product in the first place? Okay. Where was it produced? What was the cannabis put into it? Is it green cannabis? Is it an extract? Has it been decarboxylated? You need to know those questions.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to know those questions. When it goes through your bloodstream, through your liver, it is processed like everything else you eat. When it gets in your bloodstream, it's going to stay in your bloodstream for 6 to 8 hours. What happens with a lot of people when they're eating edibles is they think, oh, I don't feel that. So they have some more. I don't feel that either. They have some more. And then their body has this huge rush of THC, because that's what you're going to find in an edible, unless you know what it is. And your THC in an edible is going to be from a hybrid, unless it specifically says sativa or indica. Indica will help you sleep, calm pain, calm anxiety, help sometime with depression. Depending on the type of depression, because if it's clinical depression, not so much, right? You got to know again.
So that was another one of the questions for sleep, and you just identified that it's the indicas. The indicas are more of the calming, more of a relaxing, as a sort of more commonly stimulant of sativa,
or small dose of THC. That's 5 to 10 milligrams of THC. and you're going to take it an hour before you actually want to be in bed. And then you want to be in bed before that hour hits.
Before that hits.
That's a small amount of THC is enough to shut off the monkey mind and work like an analgesic.
One of the other questions that I thought was really, really interesting is, what about the idea of microdosing for pain? And this is something when microdosing would be the way that, I mean, it's small hits at a time. I think that's part of the misconception. They think that people that use cannabis, that we're there like with a big fat stogie and smoking a whole joint, and just small amounts over a course of time as a way of managing.
Small amounts over a course of time, a way of managing symptoms if it's chronic pain, anxiety, or depression. Depending again on what it is you're trying to deal with, what the symptoms you're trying to treat are, is the next question you should be asking yourself. So, and if it's sleep, why aren't you sleeping?
That's so true.
Right?
It's so true.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Just saying. So a small amount of THC or an indica product to help you sleep. Now, indica product, probably edible or a tincture, is the best, because now it's in your system for 6 to 8 hours. So once it takes effect, it's going to stay there, as opposed to, and you fall asleep, great, but you're not likely going to stay asleep unless you have that ability to stay asleep naturally.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but it's and another thing, I mean, just by having this conversation, there's so many different variations in doing, but we have to know our own bodies, know our response, and know what the products are. Another question was, and again, it's because there's not a lot of choice. People just go to the grab bag of getting their
and they
their
go
products.
for what's available,
But
not what the best choice is.
Not what the best choice is. And so someone's asking, what about folks? They seem to get paranoid they feel they get paranoid from all marijuana products.
That's sativa.
That's the sativa for you.
Because that's going to stimulate, and it's going to stimulate whatever your body is experiencing. And not all sativas. Some sativas, when you go to All Bud or Leafly or one of those sites that will give you the description of that plant, if it says prone to or can exacerbate, no, not for you. Sativa is going to stimulate whatever your body's experiencing, be that pain, anxiety, or depression. It's going to stimulate it. Unless you have a high enough dose of it to get you above, so that you actually are, in effect, stoned. Then you're above the pain. But then there's that other side of coming down from it. So the same thing as alcohol. People will use alcohol to get above pain, not to deal with the pain, to get above it.
Yep. So have you found over the course of, say, that the last year or so, do you think that people are becoming a little bit more open-minded and educated?
Yes. I've had the opportunity to talk to a number of people who realize they're going to stay on pharmaceuticals for the rest of their life because of whatever condition or injury or illness that their body is surviving with. So how do they add cannabis products to reduce the amount of pharmaceuticals and reduce the amount of permanent damage to the body? Cannabis products even have the ability to repair some of the damage to the human body from pharmaceuticals. But there are huge cautions. Like I said, I don't want you going out and just because someone on the radio said, hey, it works. No, you've got to go to a place where the person behind the counter is knowledgeable about their products. You have to be honest enough about what you're dealing with that person behind the counter in the first place. Then, and I always say this, I want you to talk to your healthcare professional before you choose to use cannabis.
Absolutely.
They may disagree, but it's your choice. Now, once you have been using cannabis, go back and talk to your doctor again with information that you have documented about how it's working for you. I have a physician who has a really good sense of humor, and he said, you're not going to show up in the emergency because you did 100 milligram teddy bear, right? I said, no, I'd never do 100 milligram teddy bear. That's silly. Because my body doesn't tolerate it, but I know that. You know that.
And so, okay, so know what you're actually looking to address. Talk to someone that actually has a bit of knowledge. So where do we find those people? What do people do?
I send people to our regional libraries and ask them to go to the computer, and in their search engine in the computer within the library system, type cannabis, marijuana with an H, marijuana with a J. That's where some of the best books I have found and best cookbook yet was at Nanaimo Regional Library.
Excellent.
Books, chapters Great magazines. Treating Yourself is one of the best ones. Hydrolife, also great information in that one. You can find it online. I send people to Hempology 101, Cannabis Buyers Club of Canada. I will send people to Marijuana RX, which is actually a website started by Dr. Lester Grinspoon, who was, is still, Harvard University. He is Dr. Emeritus. I'm trying to think of the word. Dr. Lake is psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
He is a psychologist, Dr. Emeritus at Harvard University, and in the late 60s was commissioned to do a report for Harvard University on the evils of marijuana with college students. In his research, found out not so much evils, really not so much, and changed his mind. He became an advocate for cannabis, marijuana, and it wasn't until his son was diagnosed with cancer where he actually saw the benefits of using cannabis for somebody who has cancer, who is going through treatment. He had never used cannabis until after he retired. So maybe he has retired because his wife and he now enjoy it and their old age, and it's helping with old age. One of the side effects from people who have used cannabis long term is longevity.
Yeah.
So when people say, I want you to look at what you're using to smoke your cannabis in, what kind of paper, what kind of product are you like, seriously, if you're trying to treat yourself medicinally, then why are you adding toxins? Why are you ingesting something you don't know what the hell is in it? Why?
Yeah, be smarter. Yeah. Be a little bit more mindful. Use our brains and things like that. Like and there are so many different delivery methods from the vaporizers and different ways of doing.
And it's a different effect in the body because it's a different method of delivery to the system. What I like about using cannabis is that I can use different methods of delivery to my system depending on what system of symptoms I'm trying to treat. But it's all the same product, so my body already knows what to do with it. Instead of different pharmaceutical for each one of these series of symptoms within each one of these systems within my body, it's a different pharmaceutical. So it's shutting down a different series of hormones in my body. I don't want to do that. I want my body to do as much healing on its own as it possibly can.
And our bodies are designed for that. We're, the human body and everything that it's made of. I mean, it's like we're miraculous just from the get-go. But the ability for cells to regenerate and for our bodies to heal and adapt, even if it's in a new, different way. We're not saying the reset switch is going to go back to right from the beginning, but we can heal.
And there is actually a calculation. There's a formula that if your body has been in crisis for 6 years, it's going to take 3 years to completely recover from that crisis. So we want instant everything. People will try cannabis once or twice and go, well, it didn't work for me. Okay, so how long has your body been dealing with that? How long have you been on pharmaceuticals? And why did you think that was going to work in one toke? Right?
So it's there's so much of an education and a discovery process throughout the game. And it's just, to me, it's always, even still to this day, and I've been a cannabis user for many, many years, and even when I was back with my seeing my rheumatologist in Vancouver 20 years ago, I was very open and upfront about what I was doing and why. And then 3 years down the road, isn't the Arthritis Research Centre of Canada researching cannabis for rheumatoid arthritis?
You bet.
And I'm like, yay, champion the cause. But it's something that you, I'm still amazed to this day how the physical effect, there is something, and I know I've heard you tell the story before, how when you first tried cannabis and you were able to walk, and it's just like, it's something, it does something to improve the mechanical functioning of these body parts.
You know what it is?
What?
It allows your body to focus on one thing. It shuts off the monkey mind.
Is it as simple and as complex as that all at the same time?
Yep.
Because
how bizarre is that, right? Because when I was walking across that field and I'm looking at all the uneven, I can't do that. I'm going to turn my knee. I'm going to twist my ankle. I'm going to fall. That's what's going through my head. I take that and walk across the field and going, I can lift my leg. My knee's bending. I find my balance. I can feel my core. I'm finding the negative was gone. I wasn't talking myself out of an ability that I didn't know I didn't have. I was talking myself into a disability. I couldn't do that. That wasn't going to work. I'm going to fall. Take that. That shuts off. Lift your foot. Take a step. Move forward. Lift your foot. Take a step.
And our brains are not, when we're dealing with something when it's always problematic, we are so focused in, touch the hot stove, you get burnt. Take that step. It's going to pinch and hurt. You're going to fall. You're going to be unstable. That's the normal. We have sort of like a muscle memory of that.
Because it becomes the pain signature that we talk about in the workshop.
Yeah.
So the body understands that.
Yeah.
But we haven't argued it with the body. We've just accepted it. With MS, it taught me how to argue that with the body. No. If I can't do it this way, I'm going to try it the other way. I'm going to literally, physically turn around and try it another way. Because cannabis allows me to be more creative. It doesn't allow me to stay stuck in the trauma or the crisis or the pain. It allows me to move beyond it. Not without it, beyond it. With it, it's not gone.
And in a way where we're actually very present and aware of our body. We're not going to be, it's not like you've been numbed and you're going to be setting yourself up for injury or anything like that. It's like you say, it's more like core and balance. And
well, no, you can. I have been known to use more than I oughta should have because I was titrating and got way more physically active than I oughta should have, and I paid for it the next day.
For sure. Yeah.
So there is that component of it too, that you have that sense of, okay, now I can do stuff, and you go like full bore for no. It's being able to understand that when I'm feeling good, I should be able to enjoy feeling good as opposed to burn through all those chores. That's that other little voice in the back of your head says, dishes should be done, laundry should be folded, bathtub should be cleaned.
All should be done right now.
Should. No. Should go for a walk. I should do some exercises. I should enjoy yoga. I should sing some songs. Go dancing. Enjoy. Because my body's going to hurt anyway.
Yeah.
So why, when it hurts less, should I do the things that I feel like I am obligated to do? So if cannabis has allowed me to get beyond that thought, woohoo! Right? You come and see me, you might want to clean my bathtub. But unless you're going to have a bath, why? I'm joking. It's clean. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there is that thought of what a cannabis user is. I like, when I do talks to specific groups about using cannabis, about the benefits of cannabis, one of the last things I share with that group is that I've been using cannabis for more than 30 years. If I was to say that first, I don't care how open that mind is. They go, she's a pothead.
Yeah.
So they're going to discount anything I say by at least 30%. Same thing with your healthcare professionals. If you go in and you're hiding something from them, like trying cannabis, they are trained to pick that up. They know. Remember the show on TV years ago, House? Patients lie. Yep. Here's it. People lie. Yep.
Yeah.
But to find an honest relationship between a healthcare professional and the patient is huge. I am fortunate to have that. And I've had it more than once. But I'm very honest and I know my body. Thankfully, from the motorcycle accident, I was able to describe what was going on with the rest of my body and describe to the neurologist what I was experiencing for MS before I was diagnosed. And he says, you're really, but when you see the damage to my leg, you get why I get it.
Yeah. What sort of things do you see that are going to be on the horizon that will be helpful for people to help navigate through this?
First thing to me is seniors. We've got seniors who have already been on pharmaceuticals for so long, and they're surviving. They're not thriving. They're not a high quality of life. If what we need is nutrition, then we need to activate appetite. If people are on sleeping pills to sleep, why aren't we giving them a natural product that's not going to interfere with any other pharmaceuticals? Children with epilepsy, people with anxiety and depression, why are we putting them on antidepressants so that they feel nothing, as opposed to a cannabis product where they can use as much to feel as much as they're comfortable and deal with it? What happens with a lot of the supposed to be short-term pharmaceutical use is, that patient is on antidepressants. You're supposed to be able to get counseling to help you through what's causing the depression, as opposed to just take a pill and avoid it.
Yeah.
We have a crisis care healthcare system. not prevention, not maintenance.
We tend to not pay attention enough to the root cause, and like you said before, why we want the instant fix. And but no, I mean, when a point happens when whether or not you haven't been using pharmaceuticals for a long time, or you've just got you get fed up and you go searching for a better and a different alternative, and you start really paying attention and being able to describe what's going on, what you're feeling, why, and what you might want to be different.
And what other things are you willing to do? Are you willing to change your diet? Are you hydrated? Do you exercise? Because if you're looking for cannabis to be your fix, your cure, wrong.
No, it's no magic wand.
No, and it's never one thing. It's never one thing.
No.
I use cannabis to help me manage my pain, but I also use diet, exercise, hydration, yoga, deep breathing. If I didn't use cannabis to let me be okay to deal with those other things, I wouldn't be using them either. It's a catalyst for me to improve my personal wellness. And it's my choice to do that. I don't think health cannabis, no, you can't eat it anymore. What? Because with my license also came a list of things that I should and shouldn't do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of, yay, legalization of recreational cannabis. But
I'm still doing my license.
It's
right.
Yeah, no, it's that's the not the area that's really going to be helpful and beneficial for people.
The way it's set up right now is a conundrum.
A conundrum.
There's some possibility in there, but there's a couple of lines missing to the punchline.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I get why Health Canada is concerned. I do understand that. But they should have looked at what happened. There's so much information. There's the Robinson's report in 1972. There's the one that I mentioned by Lester Grinspoon. There are so many, but they haven't shown up in the peer reports, in the journals. So and why haven't they? Because they said there is no product that we can test as a control. So gratefully, in a weird way, Tilray is doing that.
Well, and in the other way too. I mean, it's just like Tilray's doing that, and people like yourself, when you're out and speaking, and this whole Wellness Wednesdays and all the different things that we talk about on this program, we are part of the movement that is involved with people paying attention and waking up and demanding better.
We got to demand better. We deserve better. It's not like we're being spoiled, stomping our foot on the ground and fix me. No, how can you help me do the best that I can with what I'm trying to achieve? So we need to be more specific about what we are trying to do. If when you go to your doctor, and Sandra, you heard us say this in the workshops too, if your doctor gives you a prescription and you're not going to fill it, your doctor has assumed that when you give them that prescription that you are going to fill it. So when you leave the doctor's office and you put that piece of paper in your pocket, or you fill the prescription and put the bottle in a cupboard, but you don't take it, your doctor is going to assume that you're doing what you were told you should do. So now the information that they have is not exactly correct either.
Exactly.
So you're not being fair to your doctor because you're not giving him all the information that actually he needs to do what it is he needs to do.
And we just need to take ownership. We need to be clear. We need to not be embarrassed with what's going on. We need to take pride, and we need to, be in the driver's seat to have that happy, thriving life. And this has been great. I mean, we've only just basically touched on the surface, but I really appreciate the opportunity to talk openly and the real deal about something that is actually, that makes a difference to the quality of life that someone's able to have. So thank you, Pam.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, Sandra, and I really appreciate Wellness Wednesdays.
Me too. We are going to take a short musical break, and I will be right back with you shortly. Here is Andrea Smith. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to the Chronic Wellness Radio Show. I'm Sandra Sova, and you are listening to Wellness Wednesday here on CHLY. In keeping with our cannabis education theme, I wanted to bring on Ian Jessup. Ian is the host of a medical cannabis podcast called Cannabis Health Radio. And together with Corey Yelland, who cleared her own cancer with cannabis oil, they have interviewed medical professionals and people who have successfully treated a wide range of health conditions using cannabis. After 223 episodes and taking a pause, the Cannabis Health Podcast is preparing to relaunch soon and will be back with new guests and new episodes. Ian Jessup is joining me on the line here from Victoria, BC. Welcome to Chronic Wellness. Ian, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. It's good to be with you.
Excellent. So why don't you let our listeners know a little bit about the podcast and what they can expect when they tune in?
Well, Cannabis Health Radio started in October of 2016. When I was in commercial radio, I used to interview Corey Yelland, the co-host, once a month. Corey had anal canal cancer 7 years ago and was given 4 months to live. And the doctors told her that they could do radiation, but the radiation would close her orifices. But the doctor said, no problem, we can take you upstairs and fix it. She said, no thanks. So she did some investigative work and decided to try cannabis. And that was 7 years ago, and she cleared herself of cancer. And since that time, on Facebook, Corey has helped thousands and thousands of people. She estimates that she saved about 1,000 lives.
Wow.
So after I got fired from commercial radio, I was sitting with a friend, and I said, what do you think I should do? So we were talking about the radio program, and this friend I used to interview on commercial radio as well, he came up with the idea of doing a podcast on medical cannabis. So I talked to Corey, and she said, love to do it. So we started it in October of 2016. We did 223 episodes. We did one every weekday, and we interviewed people from all over the world, primarily people who had very serious ailments and used cannabis to help them and with their chronic condition and critical condition. And we also interviewed doctors and others. But after 11 months, we couldn't make any money at it, so we decided to pack it in. We left our website up, cannabishealthradio.com. And in the last couple of months, Corey and I have talked about restarting Cannabis Health Radio, which we're going to do. Our website is not up right now. It is being redesigned. But if people want to listen to episodes of Cannabis Health Radio, they can go on YouTube and just search Cannabis Health Radio, and they can find all 223 episodes.
Excellent.
And so we're going to start up again probably within the next month or two.
That's excellent because, it's there's been a few changes within the cannabis landscape over the last little while, and all of this stuff, just like, I don't know if you listened to my segment previously with Pam, but there's so much education and so much information that there's not a lot of resources out there for people looking and addressing the cannabis side from a medicinal perspective.
No, when Corey and I started this, we decided that we weren't going to get into the recreational side. To me, it was like doing a wine show on various wines and talking about how to get drunk. And so we decided to focus specifically on medical cannabis and how it can heal the body. And let me tell you, your listeners, a very short story. One of the most dramatic examples of this was a 13-year-old kid in the UK who had brain cancer. He was put in hospice. He was dying. And his mother said, what do you want to do before you pass? And he said, I'd like to go to Spain. So they went to Spain, and they ran into a fellow there, also from the UK, who was growing cannabis. His name is Jeff Ditchfield. And Jeff talked to the mother and the son and said, cannabis might help your son. So they started using cannabis oil, went back to the UK, continued using it, and they kicked the kid out of hospice because he was getting better. And that was 6 years ago. He's 19 years old today, still alive. He's thriving, and he has become a spokesperson for medical cannabis. So his name is Darren Blackwell. His mother is Callie Blackwell. And they are working in the UK to legalize the use of cannabis there. And so that's just one of many, many stories that we have on Cannabis Health Radio.
That's fantastic. So, when the new website and the podcasts relaunch, that will be great. But in the meantime, people can get caught up on YouTube.
Yeah, they can access all of our podcasts on YouTube. Just search Cannabis Health Radio, and they'll show up. And I want to give credit to, we didn't know that our podcasts were on YouTube. They were put on YouTube by a fellow named Mark who lives in Belgium. And he put our podcasts up, and I want to publicly thank Mark for doing that, because Corey and I would have no idea how to do it.
Oh, well, that's great. I mean, that's obviously, that speaks to the content and the quality of the information that someone wanted to do that and share that. So, I'm excited that it's going to be coming back on, and it will be something to look forward to. Make sure that we connect somehow, so that I can also tee that up with my listeners and my pages as well, to let people know when that's back on board.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we were doing one every weekday. We're going to do one a week now. It was just too much to try and do interviews with people all over the world and have one interview a week. So we're going to do one a day, pardon me. We're going to do one a week and 52 a year.
That sounds fantastic. I looked forward to it. Well, I thank you for coming on to share that with us today. It was sort of a good fit for the theme of the day. And so, any final words before I let you go?
No, it was good. I enjoyed your previous guest. She was very informative, and
Pam's amazing.
Yeah, she is amazing, and I think what she emphasized throughout the interview, I think, from my perspective anyway, is that there really is an educational component that must be done with respect to cannabis. And we're trying to help out with that, as she and you. And I think it's really incumbent upon all of us to educate the medical community, because the medical community is so far behind. And they are so caught up in pharmaceuticals and alleviating symptoms, whereas cannabis, for thousands of years, has not only alleviated symptoms, but it has helped people improve their health.
Hear, hear.
And, the discovery of the endocannabinoid system in the 90s was really, I think, the catalyst for the medical profession to start looking into this plant, as they have done in Israel. Israel has looked, Dr. Mechoulam in Israel has looked at this for, the last 25 years. But I think Big Pharma has a powerful reach within government and within the healthcare system, and I think it's incumbent upon everyone to really understand the medical benefits of this plant, because that's what it is. It's a healing plant.
Absolutely, and that's right, and that's so much what yourself and what Pam do is the education piece and getting that out into more of the medical professionals and our healthcare system is where it's at. She'd actually be a great interview for your podcast. I'll make sure I hook you up with her contact information as well. I'm going to let you go, Ian. Thanks again for popping in today, and have yourself a great rest of the day.
You too. Thanks, Sandra.
Okay, thanks. That was Ian Jessup from Cannabis Health Radio. Well, that has been another very fast hour here on the Chronic Wellness Radio Show. As always, I thank you for tuning in. It is my pleasure to come and talk health and wellness with you each and every time that I do, and that is the second Wednesday of each and every month. Tune in every Wednesday here on CHLY, the Wellness Radio Show. Next week, we're going to have Pam's going to be back along with Dr. Paula Lake for their show Living in Potential. That is 1 o'clock p.m. here on CHLY. Thank you again for listening. Have an amazing rest of the day, a wonderful, fabulous week. And like I always like to say, may we all be chronically well.